We talked about the pension tax. We also looking at how the taxpayers are ultimately going to pay for this, and we looked at that expansion and looking at the number of taxpayers that we have that actually pay taxes. Gene, did you get any figures on what that is per taxpayer that we would do to fund this expansion of government? What is that going to be like?
It comes out a few $1,000s per capita if it's for the older people, if given one of the versions of it. But the overall increase in the cost of living, if you take the 1997 to 2007, the cost of living went up about 93%. And we're pushing that envelope even farther now with some of the increases on the weight tax. I drive a very old car, but I pay $275 just to get the registration. That's going to go up another $45 or $50. That is heavy, in addition to what the city and county is proposing. I guess the analogy is when you've got a boiling pot of water, the frog jumps in and jumps out. But when the frog jumps into a warm pot and you slowly turn up the heat, it's like you fry them. And not that we're not doing this maliciously. We're doing it because we don't know any better in the state of Hawaii how to get our economy moving other than taxing people more, or the big issue, cutting government, cutting spending. We haven't been very good at that. Not very good at that.
Not at all.
Cynthia, what is your take on some of the issues that I guess negative or ugly or bad legislation that you've come across so far in the session? By the way, folks, we're right now at the beginning of March, in case the show happens to play later on in April or May, and we're coming over to the first crossover next week. So we're going to be seeing some other legislation coming in, and we'll do subsequent shows to try to keep you folks all informed about the things that we're seeing over here. But Cynthia, what are some of the things that you've seen so far that bother you?
One of the things that really concerned people was the pension tax. And I received just a tremendous amount of emails, phone calls, letters saying, we're on a fixed income. Don't do that to us. This is something that we earned. This is something we relied upon when we decided that we could finally retire. And so although the pension tax now is much less onerous, and it is only going to affect people at a rather high level of income, you never can feel secure while the legislature is still in session, and people never should, they should always be vigilant, because it can go into conference committee and boom, things can change, and it can be very punitive to people.
Well, exactly. Take, for example, House Bill 1216. Now, this measure is supposedly dead, but who knows? It could come back in another reincarnation. And this was establishes a tax on the sale of sugar-sweetened beverages, and how that would affect consumers in this state having that tax, and it would be taken at the register like the bottle tax. We got to just be vigilant and look at these kinds of things, because that ultimately affects the bottom line of families, that go out, and there's the argument that this is a good thing because it might encourage people not to drink sugar-laden drinks. But at the same token, it becomes a little bit of a nanny state. I don't know if you folks agree with me on that, and that we're telling consumers or pushing consumers to a particular type of behavior, and that government's doing that. And I think in my opinion, I think that should be a person's personal choice of what they want to put into their bodies to that extent. Now, obviously, drugs or things of that nature, that's kind of where I draw the line. But when you're talking about what I'm going to eat, if I decide I want to go and have a Big Mac today, that should be my choice, and I don't think the government should be telling me.
Only one a day is what they'll allow.
Yeah.
Just one a day.
Yeah. Let me go on from that just to say that how people are going to be hit in so many ways because of the conflict in the Mideast. And the price of gasoline obviously is going up.
Right.
The price of Hawaiian Electric's oil that it brings in to power our islands is going to go up, and every step of the way, the consumer is going to be paying more. That's one of the reasons I've been so strong on saying we have to get rid of our addiction to oil, to fossil fuel, and why I'm such a supporter of renewable energy. Because imagine Hawaii with all of its natural resources, wind, ocean resources, solar, and geothermal, and we're the most oil-dependent state in the nation. People learn about that on the mainland and they say, you're kidding me. Why? And we just have to keep pushing forward.
You've done some wonderful work in terms of researching wave energy and some other things, and thank you for doing that, because you've really brought to light a lot of issues in terms of the energy. You've been kind of our...
And your island is going to be the first one to get the really wave energy converter on Maui,
Yes.
offshore of Maui.
Yes.
And it's going to help provide energy right to the grid.
Absolutely, and that's
I'm
what we're really
envious.
excited. Yeah, well, we're very excited about it, and we're excited that you're kind of our energy czar in our caucus.
Oh, thank you.
Gene, how about you? You got any other things that you wanted to talk about?
I wanted to piggyback on the sugar and go to alcohol. The alcohol tax was a 50% proposed increase, and I'm sure that the history books will show that the only things in the 30s and the Depression that really made money were taverns and movie theaters, because people wanted to basically forget some of their problems, their lack of jobs, etc. If we're going to hit the drinking public, particularly the beer drinkers, with 50% increase in the taxes, that's kind of cruel and unfair. Like the way Representative Marmoto said to Governor Amerconi, isn't that almost cruel, the way that we're taxing the old people with their pension? Isn't it almost cruel when somebody can kind of have a chance to kick back and drink, but not having to pay out their nose? And if they smoke, it's almost $10 a pack of cigarettes. So do we know best? Not in all things, but the way that we haven't been able to find the money, we're kicking and scrapping, and people are saying, well, how are you guys cutting the budget? And right now, we're not even sure whether there's going to be furloughs to continue, and that's almost $168, $70 million if the furloughs would stay. There's taking the prisoners back from the mainland. That's another $63 million we could save. I mean, it's good to bring them back, but you know, the interesting thing, and as a former police captain, you should know that the data says the ones on the mainland have a lower recidivism rate than those who are incarcerated in Hawaii. We discovered that the other day in the Finance Committee. We couldn't believe it. So,
because they have the programs set up for
well,
them.
the discipline and maybe the video conference rather than seeing, I don't know what the logic is.
I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that they have more extensive reintegration programs to help them learn job skills that are lacking in our system here. And that was one of the issues that was brought up with the new public safety complex on Maui. We have a severely overcrowded jail right now. It was built before I even came in the police department. I believe it was built in the 60s or 70s. And at that time, it was surrounded by cane fields. Now it's surrounded by affordable housing and subdivisions. And the security is really lacking. There's problems with people throwing drugs over the fence to the inmates inside. And you know, it's just completely overcrowded. So we were looking at trying to get a new public safety complex built on Maui so that we could bring people back from the mainland and have them go through a one-year reintegration program. Teach them a job skill, make them plumbers and electricians and whatever the case, give them a skill set so that they're less likely to go out and reoffend. Right now they're only getting a month of reintegration on Maui. I'm not sure what it is like here on Oahu, but I'm sure that you folks are experiencing some of the same things. So kind of interesting to look at how these issues are, you know, bringing them back sooner. Yes, but we need to have programs that allow them to reintegrate better into society. So, awesome. Anything else you wanted to add, Gene? Or?
Only that in the long run, if all fails with the alcohol tax, the pension tax, with the tax on soda, the grab from the special funds, from the taxing of some nonprofits that are in the business association category, the governor is going to be setting us all up for a position of, well, you guys didn't do what I suggested you do. I have no alternative except the GT tax. That is, to me, the most frightening and the biggest sucker punch. If it does occur, that could be, well, the legislature made me do it. Your GT tax is going to be $500 million and is going to hit everybody, particularly the lowest income people, the hardest. And that's something that I think people should stay tuned to, because it's not on the top of the table, but it's very close under the table, and we're looking through a glass table.
Right.
Well,
right
and you have to remember that on this island, on Oahu, all of our people on Oahu pay 0.5% more already because of the rail.
Yeah.
So we're at 4.5% right now and have been for a couple of years, and it's difficult.
Absolutely. Well, you know, I'm come over from Maui and I stay here, in temporary lodging, and I'm looking at the transit accommodation tax, and then I'm looking at the 4.5% tax, and it starts to add up, and you start looking at, what I was paying, $70, $80 a night for a room. When you start adding in all the other fees and taxes, it goes up another $15, so it's kind of interesting.
You remind me that the timeshare tax has just gone up also.
Yes.
And some people have been investing that as not a part of necessarily of retirement, but to get away and share a vacation and timeshare. But the bottom has come out of that particular market, and at the time when it needs to be left alone, we're taxing it.
Right.
And that's a bit counterintuitive, to say the least. But another good news thing that's coming up is APEC. It's a chance for we in the state of Hawaii to shine on the world stage.
Yes.
21 countries, finance ministers, presidents, and Mr. Obama and all the other heads. And if we can prepare ourselves for that and do a good job, we should be, I would like to see it as the Geneva of the Pacific, the epicenter of diplomacy for things like what's going on in North Korea or Fiji. Bring them to Hawaii, and this is where the Aloha State can really pay off and really make substantive progress in the real peacekeeping for world purposes.
I totally agree. And, and there's some other troublesome legislation. Unfortunately, we're getting low on time here, but, people need to really watch this whole issue about the interlock system that they're talking about now going back and allowing people who had their licenses permanently revoked participate in the interlock system. There was a reason why people lost their license permanently, and now we're going back to allow people, from a certain length of time to now go apply and get their license back. And so we got to watch that legislation. Also, stun guns for
that one bothers me so much.
For liquor inspectors.
And with no training.
I'm sorry to the director on Maui. I know he really wants this, but at the level of training and my law enforcement experience, it's a bad thing to be arming liquor inspectors.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And with the lack of training requirement, it's scary.
Yes.
And we should also tell your viewers that bingo is alive on the Hawaiian Homes. We defeated casino gambling in Waikiki on the floor of the House, which was a monumental occasion in itself. But for those who have been paying attention to the federal Akaka bill, we have a state mini version of the Akaka bill that's going and moving through the process now also.
Terrific. Anything else you wanted to mention? We have just a little bit of time left here. Anything
just that I hope people continue to turn into Olelo and to watch this show and other shows.
On Maui, yes. It's
all right.
Yeah, it's going to be shown there as well.
Okay, because it's so important to hear from the public and to have your voices heard at the Capitol. So we all welcome you and ask you, call our offices, how can we help you? And be involved, because these things are fast moving and we want to have your voices heard.
Okay, well, I want to thank both of you for taking time out of your busy schedule to come here today and participate in my first show. We welcome your feedback as well, too. Please write to us if you have a chance. It's repfontaine@capital.hawaii.gov. That's repfontaine@capital.hawaii.gov. Give us your feedback, your input. The next show, if you folks want to write in, I'll read some of the letters on air. And, whether you like the show or you don't, give us your feedback. This is going to be a fair and balanced show that we're going to try to do and have all sides heard. Our next episode that we'll be showing, we'll have Bishop Larry Silva on and some other exciting guests. We're going to delve into the homelessness issue and talk about it statewide, also here as well. So look forward to seeing you on our next show. Aloha and thank you for watching.